Section 1. You will hear a conversation between a florist and a customer who wants to buy a big bouquet of flowers. Before that, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. You will see that there is an example which has been done for you. The conversation relating to this will be played first. Good morning, sir. May I help you?
Hello, good morning. I want a big bouquet of flowers. How many varieties of flowers do you have?
The customer visits a flower shop where he is looking for a bouquet. So, the answer to the question is bouquet, which is written as an answer for the example. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5. Good morning, sir. May I help you?
Hello, good morning. I want a big bouquet of flowers. How many variety of flowers do you have?
As you can see, we have almost all flowers on display. They include lily, tulips, all-colour roses, orchids, etc. And we also have a variety of leaves as well.
Oh, that's nice. So there are only ready-made bouquets available, or can I get a customized one?
Yes, you can get it customized as well. That is totally your choice, and we will deliver the bouquet of your liking. So, do you have something in mind?
I guess I'll go for a customized bouquet.
Okay, sir. And how do you want me to assemble the flowers?
Generally, how do you assemble them?
Sir, it depends on customer's choice and the choice of flowers.
Okay. Can you tell me the cost of a single rosebud?
The single rosebud could cost you around $50 each.
And what about lily and orchids?
Lily would cost you around $65 each, and orchids would be approximately $100 each.
The prices are quite high.
Yes, sir. The prices are according to their quality. Now look at questions 6 to 10. As the talk continues, answer questions 6 to 10.
I'm thinking that I'll go for a basic bouquet.
Can you tell me your budget, please?
Around $200 to $250, and I want you to focus on all the colour of roses: red, yellow, blue, pink, orange, white, peach. And will you add the leaves also?
Yes, sir, of course. Whatever you want, I'll do that.
If you think that you want to make minor changes, then you are most welcome.
I was thinking to add some lilies and orchids also. Oh, yes. Can you tell me which occasion is it for, so that I will pack it accordingly?
It's my parents' marriage anniversary, and it's a surprise.
Okay, for that I will tie the bouquet in a round shape with a net cover and some colourful flowers and some frills. Here you can see the sample. Hope you like this sample.
It looks lovely, beautiful. Go ahead and wrap it finally.
Do you want to take the bouquet along with you, or you want it to be delivered somewhere?
Actually, first I was confused, but it would be nice if you will deliver it.
We already have a delivery system which is free of cost.
Please note down the address. It is 72 Avenue Road, California.
Your contact number?
0977 43532.
Can you please repeat the number?
Yep, 0977 43532.
Got it. Sir, you can have my card next time if you need flowers. You can just give a call and get things done.
Yeah, sure. It definitely works. Here is your money. It's $250.
Sir, it is only $200.
Oh, okay, great.
Thank you, sir.
I want you to deliver the bouquet today evening around 5 p.m.
Definitely, sir. We will do that.
Okay.
Thank you, and visit again. That is the end of section 1. You will now have some time to check your answers. Now turn to Section 2. Section 2. You are going to hear an audio recording of the speech given by Martin Luther King Jr. on the topic I Have a Dream, which was delivered on 28 August 1963 at the Lincoln Memorial, Washington, D.C. First look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen to the recording and answer questions 11 to 16.
I am happy to join you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American, in whose symbolic shadow we stand today, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who have been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to the end of the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check, where the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and Declaration of Independence. They were signing a promissory note in which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note, insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vault of opportunity in this nation. And so, we've come to cash this check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice.
Now look at questions 17 to 20. As the talk continues, answer questions 17 to 20.
We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradyism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksand of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal to the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there's an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning And those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. But there is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not seek guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane for dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, you must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to the distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. And they have come to realize and that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone.
That is the end of section 2. You will now have some time to check your answers. Now turn to section 3. Section 3. In this section you will listen to Frank Rich having a conversation with Chris Rock, the famous comedian, on the topic What's Killing Comedy and What's Saving America. Look at questions 21 to 28. Listen to the interview conversation and answer questions 21 to 28.
We've just come through an election that was a triumph for Fox News and a fiasco for Obama. What do you make of it?
Jon Stewart has said the reason Fox News works better than CNN is because the people at Fox News figured out how to make themselves into victims.
So will it now be harder for Republicans to play victims?
Republicans will be no problem playing victims.
Even in victory?
Even in victory. America, not black America, but America as a whole, started in England and was ruled by kings and queens who made the class system. I'm almost of the mind that's what America wants at the end of the day. Maybe America wants monopolies.
They always seem to want a Bush or a Clinton.
Maybe they just want a Bush. Maybe they want no regulations. It's hard for me to figure out people voting against their own self-interest. At some point you go, okay, is that what they want?
Is it possible that they're just angry, whether it's anger at Obama or Washington in general, and they just want to lash out? If you're angry, you don't rationally consider what's in your self-interest.
Maybe. But we had Bush for 8 years. They saw what that was. Apparently, a lot of people want to go back to that. A lot of people think rich people are smart.
For all the current conversation about income inequality, class is still sort of the elephant in the room.
Oh, people don't even know. If poor people knew how rich people are, there would be riots in the streets. If the average person could see the Virgin Airlines first-class lounge, they'd go, What? What? This is food and it's free and they... What? Massage? Are you kidding me?
You recently hosted Saturday Night Live, and in the monologue, you were talking about the opening of One World Trade. My wife and I both felt just like you. No way are we going back into that building. But you look online the next morning, and some people were offended and accused you of disparaging the 9/11 victims. The political correctness that was thought to be dead is now.
Oh, it's back stronger than ever. I don't pay that much attention to it. I mean, you don't want to piss off the people that are paying you, obviously, but otherwise I've just been really good at ignoring it. Honestly, it's not that people were offended by what I said. They get offended by how much fun I appear to be having while saying it. You could literally take everything I said on Saturday night and say it on Meet the Press, and it would be a general debate and it would go away. But half of it's because they think they can hurt comedians.
That they can hurt your career?
Yeah, they think you're more accessible than Tom Brokaw saying the exact same thing.
Now look at questions 29 and 30. As the talk continues, answer questions 29 and 30.
What do you make to the attempt to bar Bill Maher from speaking at Berkeley for his riff on Muslims?
Well, I love Bill, but I stopped playing colleges, and the reason is because they're way too conservative.
In their political views?
Not in their political views, not like they're voting Republican, but in their social views and their willingness not to offend anybody. Kids raised on a culture of, we're not going to keep scoring the game because we don't want anybody to lose, or just ignoring race to a fault. You can't say, the black kid over there. No, it's the guy with the red shoes. You can't even be offensive on your way to being inoffensive.
When did you start to notice this?
About 8 years ago. Probably a couple of tours ago. It was just like, this is not as much fun as it used to be. I remember talking to George Carlin before he died, and him saying the exact same thing.
A few days ago, I was talking with Patton Oswalt, and he was exercised about the new reality that any comedian who is trying out material that's a little out there can be screwed by someone who blasts it on Twitter or social network.
I know Dave Chappelle bans everybody's phone when he plays a club. I haven't gone that together for a tour.
What is the worst audience you've ever played to?
I had a really bad show in Biloxi, Mississippi. And that sounds so cliché. Last tour, Obama was running, and I was doing all my stuff, and it was hostile.
Was the audience black, white, mixed?
Probably more white than black, a few thousand seats, playing a casino.
Do you use social media at all?
You know, I got my Hulu account. Is it the Hulu account? Wait, what is this thing? Not Hulu.
Hulu's to watch TV?
Oh, dude, I'm getting old. It's Whosay, which allows you to tweet, Facebook and Instagram simultaneously. It's perfect for someone that's not 25.
That is the end of section 3. You will now have some time to check your answers. Now turn to section 4. Section 4. You will hear a lecture given by an engineer lecturer to his student related to Alfred Nobel. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 36. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 36.
Alfred Nobel was born on 21st of October 1833 in Stockholm, Sweden, into a family of engineers. He was a chemist, engineer and an inventor. In 1894, Nobel purchased the Bofors Iron and Steel Mill, which he made into a major armaments manufacturer. Nobel also invented ballistite. This invention was a precursor to many smokeless military explosives, especially the British smokeless powder cordite. As a consequence of his patent claims, Nobel was eventually involved in a patent infringement lawsuit over cordite. Nobel amassed a fortune during his lifetime, with most of his wealth from his 355 inventions, of which dynamite is the most famous. In 1888, Nobel was astonished to read his own obituary, titled "The Merchant of Death is Dead," in a French newspaper. As it was Alfred's brother Ludwig who died, the obituary was 8 years premature. The article disconcerted Nobel and made him apprehensive about how he would be remembered. This inspired him to change his will. On 10th of December 1896, Alfred Nobel died in his villa in San Remo, Italy, from a cerebral hemorrhage. He was 63 years old. Nobel wrote several wills during his lifetime. He composed the last over a year before he died, signing it at the Swedish-Norwegian Club in Paris on 27th of November 1895.
Now look at questions 37 to 40. As the talk continues, answer questions 37 to 40.
To widespread astonishment, Nobel's last will specified that his fortune be used to create a series of prizes for those who confer the greatest benefit on mankind in physics, chemistry, peace, physiology or medicine, and literature. Nobel bequeathed 94% of his total assets, 31 million SEK, to establish the 5 Nobel Prizes. Because of skepticism surrounding the will, it was not until 26th of April 1897 that it was approved by the Storting in Norway. The executors of Nobel's will, Ragnar Solman and Rudolf Liljeqvist, formed the Nobel Foundation to take care of Nobel's fortune and organized the award of prizes. Nobel's instructions named a Norwegian Nobel Committee to award the Peace Prize, the members of whom were appointed shortly after the will was approved in April 1897. Soon thereafter, the other prize-awarding organizations were designated or established. These were the Karolinska Institute on 7th of June, the Swedish Academy on 9th of June, and the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences on the 11th of June. The Nobel Foundation reached an agreement on guidelines for how the prizes should be awarded, and in 1900 the Nobel Foundation's newly created statutes were promulgated by King Oscar II. In 1905, the personal union between Sweden and Norway was dissolved. Thereafter, Norway's Nobel Committee was responsible for awarding the Nobel Peace Prize, and the Swedish institutions retained responsibility for the other prizes. The Nobel Foundation was founded as a private organization on the 29th of June 1990. Its function is to manage the finances and administration of the Nobel Prizes. In accordance with Nobel's will, the primary task of the foundation is to manage the fortune Nobel left. Robert and Ludwig Nobel were involved in the oil business in Azerbaijan, and according to Swedish historian E. Bargeringen, who accessed their Nobel family archives, it was this decision to allow withdrawal of Alfred's money from Baku that became the decisive factor that enabled the Nobel Prizes to be established. Nomination forms are sent by the Nobel Committee to about 3,000 individuals, usually in September, the year before the prizes are awarded. These individuals are often academics working in a relevant area. For the Peace Prize, inquiries are sent to governments, members of international courts, professors and rectors, former Peace Prize laureates, and current or former members of the Norwegian Nobel Committee. The deadline for the return of the nomination forms is 31st of January of the year of the award. The Nobel Committee nominates about 300 potential laureates from these forms and additional names. The nominees are not publicly named, nor are they told that they are being considered for the prize. All nomination records for a prize are sealed for 50 years from the awarding of the prize.
That is the end of section 4. Now you have some time to check your answers.